Welcome to another Album of Record podcast. I'm Craig, joined as always by Andrew. How's it going, Andrew?
All things considered, it's going pretty well. You know, the Cavs are in a 0-1 hole, potentially down 3 key players tonight for game 2, and it's rained literally every day for a week. But outside of that, things are going pretty good. I'm happy to be here.
Don't you just love how with every single game in the NBA playoffs, the narrative flips? Whoever won last is just undoubtedly going to keep doing that and win the series forever and ever and ever. It's narrative flip on every single game.
It is. It reminds me a lot, like football is very much that way. Because
you have 7 days between games.
Yep, and you have to fill a lot of talk time, and so when your team loses a game, the world is just collapsing around you for 7 days until the next game, and then they go out and win, and you're like, oh yeah, this team's awesome.
Do you think sorry to interrupt, but do you think bands are more like from season to season where hope springs eternal? So like no matter how bad a season the Browns have, you can find a way to talk yourself into things being better the next time around. No matter how bad a record is, you could talk yourself into thinking that a band will come back to form for their next one.
I think that's interesting. I'm trying to think, like, I don't think I really will totally write off a band because of one bad album, but it really does mute my excitement for the next album. Usually when that happens, I'll just be like, I'm just going to check it out and we'll see. But I do think, though, like with sports, I feel like it's very much like you forget all the misery of the previous season, like especially football. Football is, and particularly the NFL, I should say, the NFL is designed for parody in a way none of the other American sports really are. And so, no matter how bad your team was, you kind of forget about it in the off season. You have some free agency, you have a draft, and then you're all excited and you're like, this team, things go our way. Well, things could fall our way.
Well, and I guess that's one of the big differences between sports and music is you get roster turnover and it gives you hope. And sometimes in bands, when you get roster turnover, it destroys your hope.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. But yeah, I think, the NBA, they have so much time off in between games that they do have sort of that same effect that football has, though, where, in the playoffs, you have a bad game and it can kind of fester with the fans for a couple of days. And I even think of like in the first round, a game 2 for the Cavs, the Heat made the Cavs were in control of the game and the Heat made a run in the second half and got it close enough that it got a little bit nervous towards the end. And I remember, there was a lot of people saying, oh, seems like the Heat figured something out. We're in trouble going back to Miami. And then the Cavs won those games by a combined 100 points or whatever.
120 or something.
I think the 120 was the whole series, but those two games were like right easy or 100, right around there.
It felt like a million.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. For basketball, the Cavs are fine. And I'm trying to think of a recent example of a band who sort of had a lackluster album and then came back strong. I can't think of one now.
Obviously, Pearl Jam.
Yeah, there we go. Pearl Jam. Yeah. Dark Matter. So hoping tonight is the Cavs version of Dark Matter.
But that's another thing too, is when you get a band, and I think of Deftones, where I would never say that I don't think they've laid a complete egg on any of their records, but they've definitely had some roller coaster moments of highs and then lows and then return to form back up high again. And so once a band shows that they can make a little bit lesser of a record and then come back and make a great one again, I think that's more comparable to some of the great franchises that, they might have a down season, but they're never completely out of it. They're always just one season away from turning it back around.
I'm just curious to know on the relative scale what the downsides are for you for Deftones. Like for me, I would say it's definitely the Japanese sounding title. Is it Koi no
Yokan or Yokan or something?
Yeah. That's the only Deftones album I don't know inside and out. That's the only one. I would also say Gore was an album I really liked when it came out, but I never go back and listen to Gore. So I think those would probably be the two. Again, we're talking relative here. Like those are both still really good albums, but just on the Deftones
I remember being
scale.
very disappointed in Saturday Night Wrist when it came out. And then
I love that album.
but I ended up loving it much later.
Yeah.
So some of it's me and personal. And I remember absolutely adoring Ohms, and I still like it, but I don't think I like it as much as I did in the moment.
I think that's fair. I kind of think I'm
But
the
it's
same
still
way a little
great.
bit. It's actually been a while since I've listened to it. So I need to like go back and like really dive into them a little bit before their new album this year.
Is Diamond Eyes the one that they claim, they weren't at their best when they made it?
That's what they claim. I love that
It's a
album.
great
Like I
record.
think Diamond Eyes is amazing. So I don't know what they're talking about.
Well, that's fine. And
I
obviously,
know better than Deftones do.
well, it's possible that they're so brilliant in their artistry that they could not feel good about something and still put out something enduring. I
Yeah.
mean, Sex Tape, Command Control, I almost said Control Alt Delete. Command Control, Diamond Eyes itself, the song.
Yeah.
There's so many good songs on that. Rocket Skates. How did I forget about Rocket Skates?
This Place is Death. It's an incredible closer. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So one of the first things we wanted to talk about today was some Queens of the Stone Age news. You're our resident Queens of the Stone Age beat reporter.
Yeah. So Queens of the Stone Age put out a brief little, I don't know, what is it, 10, 15-second video and a press release basically saying something is coming. But the title of the YouTube video was Alive in the Catacombs. And this is really important.
I think that's an expansion pack for...
It does sound like it. But yeah, like, so to set this up for people, what this is, like, are you familiar with the Catacombs in Paris? So, gosh, I think this was like in the, I may even have this totally wrong on the year. Maybe it was even longer ago than I was going to say the 1700s, but it might have even been earlier than that. In Paris, they were sort of running out of cemetery space. The cemeteries were getting overcrowded. And so they built these underground catacombs. And there are, I don't remember the number, but there is a lot of dead bodies down in these catacombs. And it's become something of a tourist attraction. And there's like walls with skulls and bones. And it's like a really sort of creepy ambiance to it, but they've hosted events there. And one of the things that Josh Homme has always said he wanted to do was play a Queen show in the catacombs. And there's a lot of bureaucratic red tape that goes into that, apparently. And he has been working on this for 18 years. And I don't know if it was a year ago, 2 years ago, some like rumors surfaced that they had actually played the show and nobody was there. They weren't allowed to have a crowd for it, but the band went in and recorded a show. And supposedly it was acoustic. I don't know if that's been 100% confirmed or not, but they recorded it. And this show that they played in these catacombs, it's sort of the culmination of something Josh has wanted to do his entire life. And he's wanted to do something sort of different and unique with it. And I don't know what shape that's totally going to have. There's been some talk that they were going to release like just the raw video and audio and let fans do their own like videos and mixes and things. Not all that unlike what Nine Inch Nails did on the one tour where they professionally recorded every show and then gave all the raw footage to the fans and let them make their own like professionally shot supercuts. Yeah. So I don't know what form exactly this is going to take. I don't know what is coming, if it's going to be a DVD, is it going to be an album? I don't know for sure what the deliverable is going to look like, but it is extraordinarily exciting for hardcore Queens of the Stone Age fans because this is a very unique experience and it's something they've wanted to do. And Josh has talked about it quite a bit over the years as something he's really wanted to do. And so I'm very excited to see. I have no idea what the set list they played because again, they haven't talked about it. It's just been like reports that like this show was played and that nobody was there, no fans were there, but that they recorded it and something was going to come of it. And so this is our confirmation. There's no way this is anything. They would not pull that kind of a trick on their fans, I don't think. I'm pretty sure when this says Alive in the Catacombs, that's exactly what we think it's going to be, is this show that they played there. And so I'm very, very, very excited to see what this is going to look like, what it's going to sound like, what it's actually going to be. It's very, very exciting.
So the Catacombs of Paris were begun in 1774.
Okay.
And it's rumored to have, not rumored, it holds the remains of more than 6 million people. And It was
That's
open to
insane.
visitation in 1874.
Okay. So they started working on that before America was even a country. It predates
That's
1776.
wild.
Yeah. And like, I know, because I've heard them talk about this, that like, I guess like it's like this weird part of Paris because they can't build like big structures on top of it for fear of this collapsing in on itself. So like, with Paris, you've got like a lot of big structures and big buildings everywhere. Like there's this like huge section where they can't really build much on top of it. And like I said, I know like private events have been held there and it's a tourist attraction and just a kind of a creepy place, and very fitting that Josh would want to play there. Like this fits his personality perfectly.
Yeah, the stone it was built to consolidate Paris's ancient stone quarries, and they extend south from the Barrière d'Enfer, which is the gate of hell.
Okay, that sounds appropriate.
Yeah. That's interesting that Queens wanted to play a show in the gates of beyond the gates of hell.
Yeah. I mean, that's very, very Josh Homme. That's his aesthetic. So
what a true artist move, though, because he knows he can get some attention from this, and it's a way to present his music in an artistic way, but there's no guarantee that it's going to come with any commercial success.
For sure.
I love this kind of thing. I love the danger of it, that it could even maybe fall flat.
Yeah.
Artists doing things that aren't guaranteed to be successful is some of my favorite stuff.
Yeah, it's the very definition of a passion project. Yeah, well, like I wish I could talk more about it, but like we really just don't have enough information yet on what exactly this is going to be. We just know it's going to be something, and it's very, very exciting.
It was just so weird because I read the press release and it said, "Come see us play. Watch it online. I don't care how a baby takes its medicine, blown up the ass or down the throat." And I'm like, okay, what am I reading? What are we talking about here, Josh?
Very Josh Homme. He has a very different personality for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the other things that came up this week, and I forgot to mention this when we were setting up our rundown, is the Rick Beato has an interview coming out with Mike McCready and Jeff Ament.
Yeah.
It's not out yet, but you want to talk about a dream interview for guys like you and me. Some Pearl Jam fans might bemoan the fact that it's not Ed, but you and I are here for the...
Absolutely. I mean, Rick Beato is probably my favorite interviewer of musicians. I don't know if that's going to be universally true for all music fans. I think it's a little bit dense if you are not at least somewhat familiar with music, like on a theory scale and production side. He gets very in the weeds about the music when he talks with these guys, but he really gets artists.
Yeah, he's like a music theory teacher who's also doing interviews, which is so cool. Even I'm not an expert. I never mastered any one instrument, but I know enough to understand his interview questions, and I learn something every time he goes off on a tangent or talks about something.
I really appreciate he has one of the best ears for music. He has, perfect pitch hearing, and he could just listen to these songs and immediately identify, what scales they're using, what key the song is in, and he can hear when they do interesting, unexpected parts of a progression that maybe doesn't fit your traditional scale. He'll point that out and he'll ask, why they do that. And, I do appreciate all that, but he's also like, there is meat on the bone for just your casual fans who don't know the first thing about actual music. Like, that sounds weird when I say it that way. It sounds more judgmental than I mean it to. Like, I'm just talking like, if you don't know like how to play an instrument, you don't know what the musical notes are, he'll still talk a lot about like the origins of songs and how things are written, and there's a lot to really enjoy. And I had remarked to you this week, I think it was this week or maybe last week, we were talking about the YouTube channel Drumeo and how it's like the best YouTube channel that there is. And I said, I wish that there was a Guitar-eo thing. And in some ways, Rick Beato is kind of the closest thing we've got. You don't get they don't like randomly play a song and ask guys to write a guitar part on the spot on top of it the way Drumeo does with the drummers. But he does get guys to play things, and he'll encourage them to show like these weird parts of songs. And like, if you ever want to just learn more about song, like go onto YouTube and just YouTube, like, what makes this song great, Jeremy, and you'll get his video where he breaks down all these different layers that are going on in the recorded version of Jeremy. And there are parts in Jeremy that I never heard in my life until I saw that video. I had no idea those layers were there. So it's really fascinating to really break down what's going on in a lot of these songs that, I've God only knows how many times I've listened to Jeremy and never heard, the acoustic guitar part that's in there. I had no idea there was acoustic guitar in the recorded version of Jeremy.
Yeah, the other mini YouTube genre, and I can't remember which channel it is that does it, but they'll get, a little known indie rock band or an emo band into a studio and tell them that they have to cover a song in a half hour, and you see them kind of learning the parts, figuring out how to put their own spin on it, and then doing a final performance. I love that kind of stuff, just to see how bands work, how they think about things, and then how they make it their own.
Yeah.
YouTube is just one of the greatest resources for music fans. Almost like it was designed for music fans. And I know you can also figure out how to fix your car or change a battery in a obscure device that the instruction manual doesn't help with.
Yeah.
But man, it's just a goldmine for music fans.
Yeah, and like you do have to do some digging sometimes. Like there's a whole lot of guitar instructor, here's Alive for the first time. Vocal instructor, here's Chris Cornell for the first time.
Although I like that vocal instructor. She's like classically trained in opera.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, there's just like a whole cottage industry of reacting to songs. And like, it's so interesting to me, like how many of these things just exist. And you look at like their subscriber counts and they're in the hundreds of thousands and millions. And it's just like, wow. So maybe we're doing this wrong, Craig. Maybe we should pretend like music fans talk about Rick Beato for the first time.
But honestly, think about it in practice. If you and I wanted to do a channel like that, we would have to work on our reactions. We'd have to work on our performative reactions but I don't react performatively when I'm listening to music for the first time. So all of a sudden now I'm acting like I'm amazed.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But yeah, but it would make me like hate listening to music if I had to do that. I would like loathe that part of the job. I could never do something like that for music. Like music is my one thing I just in my life that I take at face value, and I like what I like and I don't like what I don't like.
Yeah, and I want to be authentic about it. Every now and again, I think it's funny to make a short video. Sometimes I put them out there, sometimes I don't. But if I had to do it all the time, and anything that starts to feel like a job, I don't want to do. And I feel like a lot of the YouTube creators end up with a job that they don't really like.
Yeah, for sure. And you see this in like video games all the time. Like somebody like really loves a video game franchise and like, oh, I want to make videos about this. I want to be a content creator on this. How great would it be if this was my job to play this game, right? And so they do it. And 6 years later, they are so burnt out, but they can't stop because they're known just for that one game, and they just have to
still making those Minecraft videos. You're
yeah, and you're
making widgets just like you work in a factory.
It's a great way to kill the thing you love, and that's why I mean, there's more reasons than just this why you and I are not like making this a super professional podcast and making all the right decisions to grow this. From the beginning, we just kind of were like, I just want to like talk about this stuff and record it. And if people want to listen, cool. But if not, hey, at least we had fun talking about music. And I still, a year plus into this, I still feel that same way. Like I'm very appreciative of, the people who do listen, and we love it when somebody leaves a comment, like that's awesome. But like at the end of the day, like I don't want this to be a thing that kills my passion. Like I want my passion to be able to persist. So I'm very like protective of it, that this is always, if there's something that we don't want to talk about, like we're just not going to do it. Like we're not going to force talking about something just because we know it would grow the channel. Like I can't do that.
Yeah. All right, so what was up next? I was supposed to talk about something, but I don't
Well,
remember.
yeah. Do we want to we got two things to talk about? We got Turnstile and we've got Primus. I don't care which one we do first.
I'll do Primus real quick.
Sure.
So Primus released a new song with Maynard James Keenan of Tool slash Pussifer. It's called something fentanyl. It's so goofy.
You just said it in the
I
pre-show. Now
did.
I already forgot too.
It's the title is almost as Little Lord Fentanyl. The title is
That's
almost
right.
as forgettable as the song itself. It's a song that sounds like Primus with Maynard singing in the background. And it's just amazing how one of the most innovative, crazy rock bands of all time, you can just get used to them and their act and what they do. It's a decent Primus song, but at the same time, it's Primus in 2025, the year of our Lord. And, 33 years later or 35 years later, I can't be shocked or impressed, or it's not being really fair to Primus. I guess I'm not as big a Primus fan as I used to be.
Yeah, that's fair. Admittedly, have not listened to this song yet. I will, but is this a part of an album or anything, or is this just a?
Well, they're doing the next round of their Sasanta tour, where A Perfect Circle, Pussifer, and Primus, and I think some other bands are all touring together. It was all part of Maynard's birthday. Was it his 5th or 60th birthday? 60th birthday, whatever it was.
I don't think it was 50. It had to have been.
Yeah. Which is a cool concept. I would absolutely go see that show just to see A Perfect Circle again. And I think Josh Freese is on tour with them playing those shows. So that's kind of my favorite version of A Perfect Circle. They never have a bad drummer, but when Josh Freese is behind the kit for A Perfect Circle, it's my favorite version.
A Perfect Circle still just fascinates me, because I don't fully understand what it is at this point. Like, are there going to be future Perfect Circle albums? Like, they haven't released an album since, God, I don't even know when.
When you didn't like the last one.
No, I kind of liked the, what was the song? It was like Elephant something.
Yeah. Eat the Elephant.
Eat the Elephant.
Name of the record. It's from 2018.
Yeah. 2018. Wow.
Disillusioned was a big song off that one. I like that record. It definitely is not the same thing as their previous stuff, and it's a departure, but I thought it was I was happy to have it in the world, even if it wasn't my favorite Perfect Circle record.
I sort of feel like it would be really hard for me this seems like a weird thing to say, but I feel like it would be really hard for me to ever like a Perfect Circle album more than I like 13 Step.
Maynard and Gnomes.
No, I like 13.
And
I like
the
second one. But Maynard and Gnomes is very good too. But I liked the second one even more. I thought it was a little bit more dynamic.
There's something about the production on 13 Step that just draws you in.
Yeah.
It sounds more sparse and dangerous and mysterious.
Yeah.
Which I felt was more befitting that band and their identity than the really thick, almost alternative rock angle of Maynard and Gnomes. But Maynard and Gnomes is a classic in my world.
And Judith is still like an all-time elite music video. Like one of the absolute coolest music videos ever made. I love that music video.
Yeah. But actually, The Outsider is the second most popular Perfect Circle song. And that's from 13 Step.
Yeah. There you go.
I would take The Noose off of 13 Step over everything else. But
yeah, dude, the song's awesome too.
So Turnstile released 2 more songs. They ruined your vibe. They didn't release the song that is going to immediately follow the one that they released first, which sounds like it leads into something. So you are still wondering what that first single will end up leading into. But 2 more cool videos, 2 more cool songs.
Yeah.
You are also our Turnstile beat reporter, Andrew.
And don't worry, I'm not going to turn this into a 40-minute conversation where I lose my voice like I did last time. But I do think they're going to do, this is my prediction, is that they're going to do what they did with Glow On when they did Blackout as the last single a couple weeks before the album. I think they're going to do whatever that second track is going to be the last single before the album comes out. That's my official prediction. But for now, we actually got 2 songs that appear back to back later in the album. These are, I think, like the tracks number like 12 and 13 or something like that.
I think so.
Seeing Stars and Birds. Seeing Stars is a totally different side of Turnstile. Like, this is synthwave Turnstile, like heavy synth. It's a very spacious song. I mean, it's still very recognizable as Turnstile, like especially once you hear the vocals. Like Brendan Yates is very like he's got his thing that he's doing now, and then you can quickly identify that. But Seeing Stars, very unique song for them, very polarizing in the hardcore world, if you will, because
it almost sounds like dreamy new wave. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But I really love this song. I love the solo. I think not enough people are talking like, so their previous guitarist, Brady, he was a very good guitarist. Don't get me wrong. But like, I always thought his solos were boring, kind of like, I didn't think his solos were all that interesting. And Pat McCrory, who's taking over now, he was the rhythm guitarist. He's now stepped into the lead role. His solos so far, like both in Never Enough and now Seeing Stars, are just awesome solo. Very musical, very melodical, not like rhythmic solos. It's like he's not doing anything technically proficient, but it just fits the song so perfectly. And so I really like that.
Huge and beautiful and big.
Yeah.
All kinds of delay. So stylistically, they sound amazing.
Yeah. The delay and the reverb are both definitely there. It's just a really, really well-crafted song. It's like if you didn't know that Turnstile was a hardcore band and you just heard this, like you'd just be like, wow, what an interesting band. Like this, I can't wait to hear more. And it's like, it's just funny because it's coming from a band that's coming out of the hardcore world. And then right after that is Birds, and then Birds delivers on the hardcore. Like that Birds absolutely is a hardcore song. It kind of has two different parts.
But it's even breakneck speed.
Yeah, very aggressive, especially the first half. I think it was Pitchfork that compared it to Bad Brains.
Yep.
I kind of can definitely hear that in the first half. And then the second half, it turns into a little bit more of a rhythmic Turnstile thing that they always do. So very good songs. They're 3 for 3 in my book. And you touched on the videos have been awesome. The videos add so much to these songs. They somehow these videos contextualize the feel that they're going for with this. It's hard to explain because it's like, there's not like a story in these videos. There's not like a specific thing, but like seeing like the like alternate frame rate slowing down of the dancing in Seeing Stars, like just really fits that song. And then the frenetic part of Birds, it all works.
Yeah,
I'm so excited for this album.
Birds is great because it does that thing where they get super aggressive. It sounds like it's in double time. And then the whole second half of the song sounds like the same song, but they cut time in half and it just grooves. It still sounds aggressive. It doesn't lighten up at all, but it's like shows all their range. That's one thing that I think that they've absolutely done with these first 3 songs is they've shown all of their range in these 3 songs. And just for the record, it's track number 10 and track number 11.
Okay, 10 and 11. I was close.
But we're getting 14. We're getting 14 tracks from Turnstile, which is really exciting.
They've just reached an absolute like apex of songwriting. Like they're such an interesting band. I don't care about the labels. We talked about this last time we talked about them. Like, I don't care if you consider them a hardcore band or not. To me, I said, for my money, this is the most important rock band in the world right now because they are doing things that I don't know. Yep. Okay. I'm going to throw a curveball at you here, Craig. We didn't talk about this in the pre-show, but this is a thought I had, not related to Turnstile, but maybe it kind of is in some ways. So I want to ask you this question. Obviously, like your boys growing up, by nature of growing up in your household, have been exposed to your music through the years.
Yep.
They're certainly familiar with, your range of rock music. Let's say you had a niece or a nephew, though, that said, hey, Uncle Craig, I want to get into rock music. Where should I start? So my question is twofold for you. One, if that was just a blanket statement, where should I start? What would be maybe a couple bands or albums you would kind of point them in as a good jumping off point? But then if they said, well, I don't want old bands. I want modern bands right now. Who are the bands you would maybe point to?
I mean, selfishly, I'm always going to start with Manchester Orchestra. Because
that's so good.
I think they are making the best large format audience rock music today. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
urgent. I think it's dramatic. I think it's accessible. And I think anybody who is ever going to like rock music would like what that band is doing today. But to your point, you can't do much better than Turnstile in terms of covering the waterfront on all the genres between heavy and punk and hardcore and art rock and artistry. It'd be tough to argue with that one as a really good example.
That was like what kind of where my head went to, because I was because I was just trying to think like so many of the bands I would maybe want to point, like I would be like, well, you should follow the same direction I did. Like, let's maybe start with Metallica and Guns N' Roses and get into Pearl Jam, and then down that road, or maybe even start with the Beatles, Led Zeppelin. Like, there's lots of jumping off points in history, but like if it was just a modern current band, like I actually do think probably not early Turnstile, but I think you maybe not even Time and Space. Like I maybe would just say just check out Glow On and then these new songs. Like that's a great place to start. Like a part of me had thought like, you could recommend a band like Foxing, just if you want to hear like this range of going from pure emo into I don't even know what style, I don't know what genre you would call their middle period or even their self-titled album. Like, but like the thing is like if they start with the self-titled, they're not going to understand. Like that's going to be a self-titled Foxing record has stuff that is way more abrasive than anything you're going to hear on a Turnstile album, right? Like, so
For sure.
that's a little bit more of a mixed band. I feel like Turnstile is one of the more safe modern rock bands, and that's why I just think they're just such an important band, because they are
When you also have the gateway factor
fans.
where you can say these guys went from being underground to being kind of mainstream. They opened up for Blink 182 on the Arena Rock tour. So they're capable of playing small clubs. They're capable of playing small theaters. They're also capable of carrying the opening slot on an arena tour. And I think there are very few bands that can say that. But that's one of the other reasons why I picked Manchester Orchestra opening up for Incubus all summer long at places like Red Rocks and everything else. I just think they've proven that they are an accessible, large format potential type band.
And if you want to go see a live band that's going to win you over, like Manchester Orchestra.
It's also a really funny question for me because kids always end up rebelling against the music of their parents, and they're looking for alternatives. And so if I'm driving around and I'm listening to something really heavy with all kinds of screaming, that's the eye roll, that's dad's music. When I listened to that music, it was because it was dangerous, and my parents, I didn't listen to it because my parents hated it, but it was an added benefit. And now that their dad loves that kind of music, there's nothing dangerous about it. It's just accepted.
Yeah. I even had that with my little brother, my younger brother. I used to make him sit down and listen to all of my music, and I would like quiz him on like, all right, what song title is this? Who's the lead singer? And he would get like a punch in the shoulder if he got it wrong. So I was like terrorizing him too. It was like probably like some form of mental abuse. But my brother like never loved the music I loved, because I tried so hard. I think I pushed him away from it, that he wanted something different and went in a different direction. So it is a hard thing to like, how do you carefully pass on this like music that you love that you would wish a younger generation would love? It's a tricky proposition. But
I'll find out soon what my kids really love for the long term. But it's funny because my oldest is a freshman in high school, and he will, when he's not listening to rap and stuff like that, he gravitates towards a lot of the 80s stuff. He found his way to the biggest hits of Tears for Fears and bands like that. Everybody Wants to Rule the World and things like that I never really even played for him. It's just amazing I can't wait to hear what he ends up gravitating towards long term. And then obviously my younger son is 12, and same thing. I have no idea where they're going to end up. But right now, the danger of rap music, a lot of the really vile, vulgar mumble rap where they're talking about sex and all kinds of things. I do not lock down Spotify. I figure they can listen to whatever music they can hear, and we'll talk about it.
we did it when we were kids, right? Like,
Absolutely.
and like it was such an important part of us being able to express ourselves that way and discover music that way. So
And
yeah,
we
I'm
actually
with you
grew
on
up
that.
in the era where Tipper Gore was, I think it was Tipper Gore, was
It
putting
was.
the parental advisory stickers
That was
on
such a badge
records.
of honor. It was such a like that's one of my most hilarious things ever. Like talk about unintended consequences. Like I craved any album that had that. If an album had that sticker on it, I wanted it. I had a T-shirt that had that. The sticker was on the was all the T-shirt was.
That's
Like
how I discovered Public Enemy and started listening to Public Enemy when I was 13 or 14 in the early 90s.
yeah, like
So
I didn't even like Two Live Crew's music, but like
no,
I
it's not good
remember that.
music.
But like the amount of cuss words in it and the parental advisory stuff, like I wanted to be like a part of that, like that counterculture.
How do you get a bunch of white suburban kids to listen to NWA? Put a sticker on it that says they shouldn't listen to it.
Hey kids, this is dangerous. Your parents don't want you to listen to this.
Oh, it's so funny.
Uh,
All right. All right, last on our list of topics for this week, there's a rapper named Russ, who I wasn't familiar with. He's very popular though, has millions and millions of listeners on Spotify. I think he's an Atlanta rapper, hip hop producer, singer, all those types of things. He had, I don't know if it was Twitter or Threads or whatever, put something out that caught my attention. He said, Spotify should remove the public display of listener counts and streams. It's a catalyst for unhealthy comparisons. It creates misleading metrics like monthly listeners and incentivizes people to cheat so they can inflate the perception of popularity. Hiding the numbers would reduce the pressure to compete on inauthentic metrics and encourage a focus on the music itself. Look at Apple Music. There are zero conversations about how music is performing on there or if streams are fake because you don't know. LMAO, as it should be. It's nobody's business how the music is performing outside of the artist and their team. We live in this weird time where everyone feels entitled to know everybody's business because of social media. I get it though, from Spotify's perspective, having the numbers public makes it a sport, which in turn drives engagement, etc., etc. So this made me think, and I was of many different minds on it, but I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. Well, so for me, I interact with those listener counts quite a bit, and it never even occurred to me as a metric that would be worth like placing like a real value on. Like I would never be like, oh, I should listen to this band because they have X amount of monthly listeners. What I like it for is just to give me a perception of scale. Like I like to know like some of these bands that I listen to, like how many other people are actually listening to this, and again, not even as a like I don't want it to sound like I'm saying it like as like, oh, like I listen to Filth is Eternal and they have only 3,000 monthly listeners, oh, how cool am I? I don't mean it like that, but like I do like, you wonder like a band like Def Heaven, which seems massive to us in our universe, and you compare that to so many, you compare that to 21 Pilots or whatever. Is that what they're called? 21 Pilots? Is that, yeah. Stuff like that, like, and it's a drop in the bucket, right? So from that perspective, like I always viewed it as kind of harmless.
35 million monthly for 21 Pilots.
Wow, crazy.
And 6,000 for Def Heaven.
And I thought it was a couple 100,000.
I'm sure it's grown massively since they joined Roadrunner and put out the new record.
Sure. So like I think from that perspective it seems harmless, but I do actually think this guy has an interesting point. Like I just never thought about it before. And I always appreciate that when somebody gives me a point of view that I've never considered before, and it's like food for thought. And like I never really thought about like people like being incentivized to try to game the system in some way. Like it got me thinking. I'm like, yeah, like I guess like if you're in a band, like when you go to bed at night, do you like put Spotify on your phone and put your album on repeat and then just turn the volume down or plug in headphones to it so you don't hear it and like just let it play on repeat and just rack up some play counts? And could you start up a private Discord server and incentivize your fans like, hey, who can prove that they've listened to this the most, and like find ways of gamifying the system? Like that's not really cool. That's not what music should be about. So to me, it's interesting to think about. I don't think it's as dangerous as this guy is saying it is. I don't think it's as big of a deal as he's making it out to be, but like maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Like I certainly like to view it as like Spotify doing it as like a form of clickbait or engagement bait. Like that sucks. Like that doesn't feel good to think about. Like I don't want to like consume music in that way. But yeah, I don't know. Like I could kind of go either way on this, I suppose. Like I wouldn't be heartbroken if Spotify got rid of them. I don't think it matters to me that much.
I think I would be heartbroken if Spotify got rid of it because I don't think it does anything harmful. I think he's 100% wrong. I think on the fringes, maybe there are a couple bands who are not deserving who end up getting more access or more exposure because they cheated the system. But it's a tale as old as time. Bands used to prepare media kits and send them out to every college radio station, encourage their fans to call and request songs. If you were backed by a label,
was a thing. Pay-for-play was
a huge thing back in the day. I love knowing that this great record that I just listened to only has 1,000 plays because I'm more likely to share it on social media. Whereas, let's say I really, really love the new Bon Iver record. Am I going to share that? No. He's got all the listeners he needs. Everybody knows who Bon Iver is. Like jumping on a big bandwagon, as much as I love the art, I might listen to it a lot, but I'm not going to talk about it because everybody knows. I want to talk about things that people don't know. And if I don't have the stats, I don't know who I should be talking about, who I should be trying to pump up. So from a fan's perspective, I'm also coming from a place where my music fandom was so heavy in the knees that I was subscribed to Rolling Stone, Spin, Entertainment Weekly. I was obsessed with the Billboard charts. I wanted to know what was climbing, what was falling, what was doing well. And so that was part of my fandom and part of what I enjoyed thinking about. I used to root for bands to win Grammys. I don't really care about that so much anymore. I used to root for bands to win Video Music Awards. I wanted my favorite bands to do really well. Part of being a fan of the art, and obviously you're only going to do that for art you love, is knowing how they're doing and wanting them to do even better. And, I acting almost like a stockholder, So for me, I think he's dead wrong. I see where he's coming from. I'm not mad at him, but I think that in the end, great art will be listened to and bad art, no matter how much you cheat, will not get over the top.
Do you think there's any part of this too that is just like Spotify as low-hanging fruit? Like, oh, this is an opportunity to attack Spotify. Like if Apple did this and Spotify didn't, would they be making the exact counter argument? Like, oh, can you believe Spotify gatekeeps so people don't know like these bands need more listens to get more money? Like, oh, but Apple is upfront and honest and showing you right on their page how many listens they have. Like, I could see that being an argument as well if the roles were reversed. There's no question amongst artists, like there's a anti-Spotify bias, and we've talked about this quite a bit in previous episodes. You can go back and hear our views on that specifically, but I do find myself like I appreciate the different perspective and different point of view and different way of looking at this. I really enjoyed like considering this, but I do think I'm probably more aligned with you on this than I am with him.
Well,
but
and once again, I think artists just simply don't understand that when they look at the payment per stream, they're not thinking about it the correct way, because Apple Music and Spotify are both all-you-can-eat platforms. And just because people engage and listen more on Spotify, it's going to drive down the pay per stream. But they have more paid users. They pay a higher percentage. Like, Spotify is not the bad guy in a lot of ways. They're the bad guy on a lot of the PR things and some of the decisions they make in non-music categories where they're doing
our hi-fi.
Well, the hi-fi, but also just I meant in terms of podcasts and audiobooks and the things that they do that piss off music fans because they're trying to build revenue streams that they don't have to share with artists.
Very true.
I understand why they're unpopular for those reasons, but the fact is that they have helped boost the amount of revenue going to artists in the music industry. And that's like the inconvenient truth about Spotify and in the streaming age, But people think they're better off getting people to stream their stuff on YouTube, and they're just not. It's not true.
Right.
So they're happy to give it all away for free on YouTube, but Spotify's the bad guy. It's
Yeah.
amazing to me.
I'll tell you something else too. Like talking about Spotify Hi-Fi, which God, like I don't know. I feel
Just so
like they
everybody's
just
aware, Spotify Hi-Fi is this long-promised high-fidelity version of Spotify that you would pay a premium for, and you'd get higher quality streams. Something
Yep.
that Andrew and I would absolutely pay for, and look forward to paying for, to have higher quality music streams.
So like you might think because of us being such huge music fans that we would crave that higher quality. And we do, but like I've tried Apple Music, I've tried Tidal, and they just have other downsides that don't actually jive with me. Well, for one thing, I'll tell you, just last week I signed up for Apple Music again just to give it another shot. I was just kind of, I don't know, like I don't even remember what the impetus was for it, but I decided to just give it a shot. I think I had read an article talking about how great their UI is, which first of all, I don't actually agree with. I think their UI is worse than Spotify's, but like as I was listening to it, I was like, okay, this definitely sounds better than Spotify, but not to like this crazy huge degree. And not the way, like when I listened to Tidal. So when I tried Tidal for a month or two back last year, I loved the way everything sounded on Tidal. Tidal sounds amazing, but they just had UX limitations in the design of their app, and like it just didn't feel intuitive to use in the same way that Spotify does. And again, their predictive algorithms just aren't as good as Spotify's. And so, so I've got those downsides, but like, man, what I wouldn't give to be able to pay more money to Spotify and have better quality music.
No, I agree with that. I also want to know like how many playlists that Russ and his management have gotten him on and worked to get him on to boost
Right.
his millions and millions of downloads or streams so that he could show up higher and be more successful and everything else. And again, I'm not mad at the opinion. I would happily listen if somebody like that ever wanted to come on the podcast and talk to us about it. I just think I disagree. I just think I wholeheartedly disagree.
I do think it's funny too that the company
Not that he would ever come on this podcast, by the way.
I think the company that forcefully put a U2 album, a crappy U2 album, on every single one of their devices is the good guy in this. Like I'll never get over that. Like Apple cannot be the good guy when they pulled that stunt.
But I'll also never get over how mad people got about how to dismantle an atomic bomb showing up in their music player or their phone for free.
And it was very easy to get rid of, actually. Like people said it was hard, but it really wasn't.
Yeah. All right. Any place else we need to go for the good of the order, Andrew?
I don't think it was How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb.
No,
it wasn't.
Songs of Innocence.
Yep, that's the one. Yep.
Okay.
I just thought of that as you said it. I was like, that doesn't sound right.
No, quick. Name a single song from Songs of Innocence.
Yeah, I don't know. I listened to it one time and was like, nope, this isn't for me. Nah. We do have a correction we can give our listeners who have made it this long. And if you listen to our episode last week, we pronounced Samia is how we pronounced it, I believe, last week. Yep. The new artist we were excited about. Well, still are excited about, but found out it's actually is pronounced Samia, and found that out by watching a YouTube video you'd sent me of them performing in a studio. And then there was a follow-up interview with the DJ, and she pronounced it Samia, and I'm pretty sure she probably asked how it's pronounced, so I'm going to guess that that's right. But I did learn an interesting trick. I was listening to it while getting ready for work yesterday morning, and there was a song on, and I couldn't remember the song title, and it's one of the ones that I really like. And I was like, God, what's the name of the song title? So I asked gotta be careful here because I don't want to activate her back. So I asked Alexa what the name of the song was that was playing, and she pronounced it Samia. And it got me thinking, I bet there's something in the back end when they upload all this stuff. I bet there's a pronunciation guide that gets these things to pronounce things correctly.
Interesting.
But it did pronounce it Samia. So,
well, we're not going to get everything right, but the point is that we love that record, Bloodless. Yes. I still listen to it all week last week.
I think that there's a chance that Bovine Excision is my favorite song of the year so far. It's the opening track on Bloodless.
It's a good one.
I really think it might be my favorite track of the year. Like, which is crazy considering, like, again, like I love that Deaf Heaven album, love the Scowl record. Like, there's things that I love this year, but I don't know that there's a song I like more than Bovine Excision.
That'd be an interesting thing to do. Try and figure out the best songs, because I think there are other songs that I've enjoyed more than that one, but that one's up there for sure. A couple of the songs from the LS Dunes record, Violet, would be in the top 5 for me this year.
That's a very top heavy album, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening, everybody. As always, you can find everything we do, even though I forgot to post it last week, at albumofrecord.com. I usually remember to post it, and at some point I'll catch up and get everything posted. But we appreciate you guys listening. We appreciate you guys watching on YouTube, and we will talk to you next time. It's been the Album of Record podcast.